Welcome back. We are MDEV1004. That's Mobile APIs and Frameworks in the summer 2024 semester at Georgian, and it's week 8, part 2 of our broadcast and recording. In the last part, we had a bit of problems, but we figured it out on the break, and it was just dumb, like I said, and I mean dumb when I say it. So let's go back and take a look at what that looks like, and I will show you what the problem was. So I got it working, and the reason why I got it working was, this is really dumb, I forgot to set up the delegate and data source. That's what it was. So if you click here, and if you do a control drag to here, you can see that both the delegate and data sources are clicked on. You need to do this, otherwise you're not going to have a connection between delegate and data source to that movie, the movie view controller, and that was the problem. And that's why when I ran it again, you're going to see that indeed I can get a list of movies, right? So this is it. This is the beginning of it, right? We have a list of movies that is pretty good here, and you can see that it uses all the colors except for red. Nothing is below 5, but you can see that 5.5, you know, again, and some other ones that people put in here. You can see that those are pretty good, and they're working okay, right? Here's something else. This is looking at a previous list, right? And I want to look at my new list. So I just wanted, what I did was I changed the URL. I thought maybe the URI or whatever. Let's go back, and I just want to just change that. So this is an example of everything. And I want to go back into that movie view controller one more time before I finish. And I got to move on because API lists, there it is. I wanted to check out. So that was last year's data. Let's just make sure that this year's data works okay. Movie lists. And let's run that again, and let's see if that is okay. Yes, right? See that? Pretty good. So that is basically the list of movies that we're getting, and we're getting this kind of thing. So that is kind of like the first part. And this is going to show us, you know, kind of like the four movies that I have right now that I've added in. Let's do the same thing with Android. But before we get there, let's put this up on GitHub for you guys. So again, I'm going to clear this up. Git add dots. And actually, I'll close this whole project off right now. Stop tasks. So that way it kills everything, and then I can do this properly. Git add dot git commits -m, and we'll say completed i7 iOS. So that's done. Now let's get the next part done, which is the Android part. So the Android part is, believe it or not, more challenging, right? Oh yeah, and it's there's a lot more parts to it than we have. So for the first part, let's make the project. So here's Android Studio Koala. That's what I'm using. Hopefully you guys have this, or you can upgrade to this when you're watching this video. I'm going to also close this down. I don't need this. And I'm also going to just stop these things from running, so that way I have more memory. I'm going to make a new project, and it's going to be an empty views activity that I'm going to use. That's next. The application name, it's going to go into the right spot too. I got to make sure it's the right spot. So I'm going to kind of target the right thing. So instead of Georgian, it's going to be here, ICEs, and the application name is going to be ICE7, and then Android. Okay, so we know that both things are iOS and Android. And then I got to make a folder for this. We're going to say ICE7 Android. That's where it's going to go. It's going to use Kotlin. API24 is fine. And I'm going to click finish, right? And so this is where it's going to go. It's now going to run its Gradle process. And to show you what this has done, you can see ICE7 Android is another folder that's here, right? That's happening. I don't need this anymore because I think it's pretty good inside of Android Studio. I think we're pretty good there. We have about an hour left. It's going to be tight to get everything done. So this is running its thing, you know, to make sure that everything is good. Now my system, luckily, is pretty fast. And first thing I want to do is I want to start thinking about how to put everything together. There's a lot to put together here for this stuff. And the first thing that we got to do is dependencies, right? I'm just going to go into my notes here for the dependencies to make sure that I got the dependency graph fine. And I think I'm able to do this for you, no problem. Yes. So first thing is I use view binding. So I'm going to go here to the module level. Here's the module level. I'm just going to make this big so you can see it properly. I'm also going to go into full screen mode again so you guys can see it even better. And from a build types perspective, that's fine. But what I want to do is add some build features. So build features, we're going to say. And the build features that I'm going to add in is view binding, where I'm going to say view binding is true. That's the first thing I'm going to add in. So what view binding is true does is I'm not using synthetic binding. Synthetic binding is r.id. and whatever it's going to be called. That's old and it's deprecated. And if you've been taught that, pitch it out because that's not going to work anymore. That's number one. Well, it will work, but for a while, and it's not really great. These are our dependencies. And what we have here are core dependencies. These are our core dependencies here. And what we also have here is these are testing dependencies. Okay, testing dependencies are here. And I need to add in the square stuff for the things that I want. Okay, so that's what I want to add in. And we'll go back to the PowerPoint 1 second and talk about Android and all the stuff we need for Android. So let's just skip down to that. So we're going to be using, for fetching the stuff for the Android, we're going to be using two libraries. We're going to use Retrofit and Moshi. They're both from an outfit called Square. All right. So I don't know, Sudarshan, have you had a chance to look at Retrofit and Moshi in other courses at all?
No, Professor.
All right. So Retrofit, if we go there, we're going to go to Retrofit. Retrofit is an interesting way of fetching data, and it talks about how to get started. And it says, for more information, see this website. And I think it's worth it to see the website, right? So basically what it does is it uses a service, Retrofit Builder, that does everything. And, it kind of does get and put like this. This is how it works, which is pretty good. It's pretty, I would say, intuitive the way it works completely, right? So we're going to do something just like this, right? But what we need to do is, we kind of have to configure Retrofit and Moshi to work properly. Okay, so that's the first part. So now that we know what we're doing, we're using Retrofit and Moshi. What we're going to be doing is we're going to have a couple of classes we're going to set up, and one of them is going to be called an API response class. But we need to set up the libraries first before we do anything else. So without further ado, what I need to do is just a momento to make sure I have everything. The last thing I want to do is tell you that it's good and then it's not good. Here it is. There it is. Okay, back to here. So this is what we want. We want to put some implementations in here. So for Retrofit and Moshi, these are the implementation details. We're going to say implementation, and we're going to start with it's got to be in quotations, com.squareup the retrofit 2, and then it's going to be retrofit, all right? And then the version is going to be 2.11.0, if I'm not wrong. That is the version of retrofit, okay? Just reading up my code. I also want to use a logging interceptor, right? So the logging interceptor is implementation, and it's going to be .squareup.OK HTTP3 logging dash interceptor, right? And its version is going to be 4.12.0. Okay, logging interceptor. And then I'm going to make sure I got all this correct. Okay, so bear with me, please, while I do it. And then let's do Moshi. Okay, so implementation. And we're going to say that it is com.squareup dot Moshi dash Kotlin, right? And the version that we're looking at is 1.15.1. Okay, 1.15.1. So those are the three so far, and just want to make sure that I'm not doing this wrong. Gradle's always tricky, I would say. And I'm saying this because sometimes, you know, you get the wrong version and then it's going to throw a bunch of errors, and it's not really errors. It's just the way you've entered it. One thing else we need, I forgot, is the converter. So implementation, and I'm going to say com.squareup.retrofit to, and then converter dash Moshi. See, so retrofit and Moshi work together, and then 2.11.0. So that is all of them. And then I want to sync now. So that syncs up the Gradle. So the first part is all the dependencies. You need to get the dependencies right for all this stuff. If you don't get the dependencies right, bad things happen to good people and things fail, right? So that's done. Now let's go and do this. Replace with new library catalog decoration. I like that. And the same thing goes with this. Replace with new library catalog declaration. And this. Okay, you don't have to do this, but I'm doing it because I think it's just a little better. And you're going to ask me, what is all that? I'm not sure if your professor for Android did this. Did he? Sudarshan? Did he show you how to do that?
No.
Okay, so these, what they do is they actually go into something called lib versions toml, the toml file. And if you look at the toml file, there's conversions for all your libraries here, and the version numbers right here, retrofit to 11, Moshi, all that stuff gets translated into something that looks easier inside of here, inside of your module level, all right? So this is pretty good. Let's put this up on GitHub. So I'm going to say, let's go up one level. Let's say git add dot. Git commit find send. We'll say added project files for ICE7 Android, and then git push and get that done. All right. So that is the dependencies. We've got those done. We also included build features view binding, which is good. We can close this off. So we don't need these. Close that off. For view binding, the way that works is we have to set up some stuff in our main activity. And the first thing is we want to set up view binding in our main activity. So the way that works is we have a late initializer, right? So that's what we're going to say private late init var, and we're going to make this binding, which is of type activity main binding. Activity main binding. Activity main binding, what that is, it comes from the view binding. It generates a class as opposed to using r.id. whatever it's going to be. We don't use that anymore. Like I said, it's deprecated. So we get rid of all this. We don't need this. This is kind of boilerplate stuff. And we don't need edge to edge. And what that means is we can get rid of this and all of this, these imports. So our imports look like this now. And then we have to initialize view binding. So we're going to say something like, well, binding is equal to activity main binding, and we're going to say that we're going to inflate using something called layout inflator. and that inflates the layout using our new binding. I want to get rid of this now, and instead of that, we're going to say binding.root. Okay, so that is what that does. And that's the first part that we want to start with here. Okay, so this is pretty cool. And I want to run an emulator. I'm going to run Pixel 8 Pro just to get that going. Let's run that emulator. And you can see that was my last thing. This is what I want. This is what I want to happen, okay? But what we're going to do is I want to run this code, which is just going to say hello world for now. So let's just do that. So let's sync for changes. Again, any changes we want to make, then we can run it. We should get hello world. That's what we want to get in there. Unless there's an issue. Unless there's an issue, which there is. There's org, API internal artifacts, cannot resolve compile class path. Okay. Why? What did I do wrong? Saved instance, binding, activity main binding, ProGuard. Could it be one? This is the problem that I told you before. Could it be one of my darn dependencies? Well, let's remove these, and I just want to make sure I can get sync now. Let's see if I can just get everything back to normal. Android finished. That's good. Let's run that again. Let's see if that's not an issue. So this merges. I want to make sure that it's not me, like it's not my thing, right? And if it is, I'm going to go back there and fix these. Yeah, see, so that it was one of these dependencies. Okay, let's add them back one at a time. So retrofit, is that it? Sync. Let's run that again. Yeah, see, retrofit doesn't like. Libs retrofit crashes, right? So that's bad. So if I take this out, look at that, eh? I sync again, and I run it again. It runs no problem. But if once I add retrofit back in, so let's make sure 100% that that retrofit is not a problem. Lib versions Kotlin, Core KTX, Espresso, libs retrofit. Okay, so I'm going to check that file now. Libs converter moshi retrofit com.squareup retrofit 2 retrofit, and then the version is 2.11.1, right? 2.11.0. Retrofit version. Actually, I just go to the site. Where's the PowerPoint? PowerPoint retrofit square. What's the latest version? The latest version is 2.11.1. Yeah, look at that. Right, built in. 2.11. Let's look at all the releases. 2.10. Yeah, 2.11.0 is retrofit. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so let's go back to code again. Download latest jar. Here's the license file. 1 second, guys. Website. Base URL, latest jar. Here it is. Gradle implementation. Yeah. Insert latest version here, which is 2.11.1. Okay, we'll just do it the long way. Maybe it doesn't like these. It's weird. Paste. Got to be in brackets. And we're going to put in 2.11.0 in there and go back the other way. See, I was trying to be smart, and that's what happens. You're trying to be too smart. Bad things happen to good people. All right. Let's undo those. Undo. Undo. There we go. I want to keep those for a second. And let's go back to these versions here. And I want to get rid of converter Moshi. Yeah. Retrofit 2. Well, let's try just that and see what happens. Let's see if I can pull off just this part. And let me sync up. Okay, and let's just run it. Yes, so that worked actually. This is the correct thing to do. All right, let's do the converter next. So the converter, the versions. Maybe I did that wrong. Who knows? But com.squareapp.retrofit2. That's retrofit. That's this part, and then the converter is here. Retrofit 2 converter Moshi. This one. So we're going to say copy. Sometimes things work the old way a little bit better than a new way. .11.0, right? Isn't that the same thing? Sorry, guys. I know there's a delay. Retrofit. Yep. 2.1.1.0. Okay. And let's sync that up. And then when I'm synced, then I run it. Good to go. I like that. That's the converter. So this is gone. And the interceptor, I think it's going to have to be this way, guys. I don't care. As long as it works. The interceptor is okay. Logging interceptor, this one. And the interceptor is the same as it's 24.12.0. Maybe that's the problem. Oh, see, I had spaces. That's why it was the problem. Oh man, that's terrible. That's the problem. I had spaces in here. So this is this, and that's my problem. And then what is it again? I had 4.12.0. 4.12.0. Okay, actually I can make it work. I can make this work. And the last one is Moshi. Wow, what a waste of time. Time, my friends. Moshi. Copy, and that's retrofit 2.11.0. No, it's converter Moshi. Moshi, which is one. That's Moshi Kotlin, which is 1.15.1. 1.15.1. So that is 1.15.1. That's what that is. Get rid of this. Got all those. And let's sync now. And let us run it again. I know this seems silly, but if you can't run your app with your dependencies empty, something's wrong, right? That would cause a lot of pain later. I would go crazy. So I always do this first. Now let's fix up this lib version stuff. And the way to do that, it's pretty simple because we know what I just fixed. So these are gone. Again, you don't have to do this. I'm doing it because I want to be fancy. I want to be fancy, I said. And there we go. So that's fixed. And now let's go back to our build and let's try it again. So I think it's just the spacing that did it. That's what I think. We can always undo worst case scenario now because everything's working great. That's awesome. Sync. Think what worked? Run. Now we're good. Okay, so now I put all the dependencies in place and everything's working. Let's go back to this and say git add dot, git commit -m, added, we'll say dependencies for retrofit, which is our framework, and Moshi. Git push. Okay, so that worked. Now we're back. Now we're in business. All right, so now that that is good, we don't see these anymore. We can get rid of these. And what we want to do next is we want to start adding in all the required classes. So I kind of have that in the PowerPoint. And the first one is this class, which is basically the API response class. The API response class is going to be basically taking a look at success, message, and data right now, not the token. If we get the token, that's okay, but we can ignore the token. If I want to add the token later, I can do that, and it's going to be of type string. Okay, that's what it is. So notice that we have two parts: the annotation part, and as well as the basically each of the variable names, right? Okay, so I'm going to grab this, copy it, and I want to make a new class called API response. So let's do that and go back to this. So I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to go into app, and I'm going to go into Kotlin, and here I'm going to make a brand new Kotlin class called API response. Let's make sure I spelled it correctly. Did I? I want to make sure it's correct. No. API lowercase pi. Lowercase pi. API response. That's the class. And then what I want to do is I want to grab that code there and paste it in. There it is. And if there's a problem, this would crap out right now. That's the first thing. So I added the API response. Let's add that in. So git add dot. This is what you would do too. Git commit -m, and we'll say added API response class. Okay. So this is necessary because we're going to set up the API response the way it is. Next in the agenda, we're going to add the model class, and I've done this to save time. So similar to iOS, we're going to go back here and add the model class, new Kotlin. It's going to be a data class. That's what that's going to be, and it's going to be called movie, I believe. Let's make sure I'm not. Yep. And yes. And let's add that in, and we'll just replace the data class itself with the stuff from that we got from the PowerPoint. Notice that all of these are optionals, right? Except for title and studio. Again, just like on the iOS side. Okay, so this is the stuff we need. All right, next one. Next one. Okay, we're going to do the API service. The API service basically is a way of defining each of the things that we want to do. Now, this is a full API service that does like find, add, update, delete, everything else. I don't need all of this, but I'm going to add it in for today. Okay, so let's add all this. Copy it. This is the full service you're getting. Okay, and so next week will be a little easier. So I'm going to kind of right click and go do new, and we're going to say Kotlin class, and we'll say API service. I think it's spelled that way. Let's just make sure. As I'm rushing for time, no, movie API service is what it's called. Movie API service. Movie API service. Yes, let's add that in. Movie API service, and paste that in. And what this does, again, is it does all the different calls that I have for my, so again, using the API response, right? It gives me a list of movies if I go, if I do a list. Okay, this is what this does. And you can see this is kind of similar. We don't have all this yet, this part down. We are missing on the iOS side. We're going to put it in next week, okay? So this is this part. Next, I want to add a new Kotlin class again. And this Kotlin class is going to be the data manager. So maybe this is your first time or one of the first times you guys have looked at singleton design pattern. The singleton design pattern is this, and I'll talk about the singleton in a second. I'm just going to switch back here. And so this is the data manager. So the data manager is a singleton. It's part of a series of design patterns. And I'm going to talk about what the singleton is in a second. Paste. Yeah, I thought that was going to happen. Because we need some stuff that it doesn't know. Like it doesn't know what Moshi is. Let's import that class. You know, it doesn't know what retrofit is. Let's import that class, right? So if you don't have that, a Kotlin JSON adapter, let's import that class, right? And let's import everything else. That callback, let's import that class, right? Actually, callback will be retrofit callback. So let's try that again. Import class, which will be retrofit. I can type it in. I think I'll be able to type it in. So it's going to be import retrofit 2.callback dot callback. There we go. Callback. That'll fix this part. Moshi converter factory. That's a problem. I think I got all of them. Okay, so that is this. Now this is incorrect. This is the old way of doing it. Or is it incorrect? API, HTML. Yeah, I think this is actually okay. Yeah, this is okay. API movie. I think it's movie. API movie. And it's not this actually. It's let's go back. Not completely correct. It's partially correct. Let's go to this. Exit full screen, and I need from here on this part. Not completely correct. Paste. So that's what it is. Okay. So that's their base URL. So what this does, this class, which is a singleton, it has a private constructor, and what the private constructor does in a singleton design pattern is it prevents a user or a programmer from instantiating a concrete object of this class. And so what we use is we use the companion object, and the companion object in classes in Kotlin, what they are is the same thing as a static area. It's almost like you're defining a static area in the class, the companion object. And the companion object, what it does is basically says, look, I want to make a private static instance that's going to return data manager. So this is kind of the way it's going to be done. So the private static instance. And what this does is it basically says this: if the instance exists, this one, if it already exists, then just return the same reference back. If it doesn't exist, instantiate an object of type data manager and return that, right? So that's what it kind of does, okay? And that's what this line does right here. So we have the window to get into data manager is through instance. So we say something like, it's almost like a static class. We say like data manager.instance dot, and then we can access any of the functions that are down here. For example, in this one, I've only included one, which is get all movies. And what get all movies does, it'll return the list of movies from the database. That's what we're hoping it's going to happen. Okay. And that's what this data manager does. It's kind of central to everything that we're going to do, right? It also converts JSON data that we can use by using Moshi, right? So that's what Moshi is. So we kind of declare a Moshi object, and then we set up retrofit. So this is where retrofit and Moshi get set up inside of this. So what happens here is, we do a couple things here. Our service, which is the service itself, is the movie API service. And what happens is we create retrofit by using the movie API service class that we created earlier, okay? Okay, so this is the data manager class. Let's add that into GitHub. So git add dot, git commit -m, we'll say added data manager singleton. git push. Okay, that's what that does. We're continuing. We're continuing. So we have that part, and now the movie model. It's the movie view model. Again, I'm going to go back to Sudarshan. Sudarshan, did you cover view models?
Yes, Professor.
Yay, you did cover. Okay, so yes, one of them you covered. Okay, one of them you covered. So yeah, the view model, basically what it does is it allows us to maintain state when we're rotating a device. It also helps us to reduce code duplication. So we're going to make a movie view model that's going to be using the data manager. All right, that's what it's going to do. Okay, let's do that now. So back to this. So we're going to call this a movie view model. Right click, new, Kotlin class. We're going to call this the movie view model. And we'll add that in. There it is, right? And then what we want to do is you want to grab all this, copy it, and go back to here and paste it in. Now we have some dependencies for this. The view model class needs a dependency as well, if I'm not wrong. Because let's port that Android lifecycle function. There we go. Mutable live data. Let's import that. Live data. Let's import that. Callback and override in the data manager. That's all going to need a response. I think the response class is from retrofit. Let me just make sure. Movie view model. I think so. So it is import retrofit 2.call import retrofit 2.callback, right? Callback lowercase. Import retrofit 2.response. Okay, there it is. There's all of them. And that should be everything you need for the view model. Okay, so the view model's in. Git dot git commit -m. So added movie view model. Okay, so that is all the dependencies done, and I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, I'll be honest that we've got all those pieces in there. We can get rid of all those because we just added them in. Now, those are all the ones that I covered on the PowerPoint slide. But now we need the guts of everything, right? So we have all those pieces, right? But we need a couple things. We need some stuff to show, right? So inside of the layout, which is our activity main layout, we have to modify this pretty good, right? So what I want to do now is just do a little bit of layout work, not much, just a bit. And I'll talk about it. I need actually a few different layouts that we're going to use. But let's start with our activity main layout, the first one, okay? So it needs two things. It needs a recycler view that we're going to put in. Let's get rid of the text view. We don't need this text view. We do need a recycler view though. Let's add that in next. So the recycler view, again, I'm going to go back to this, and I'm just going to zoom in here. And what I want to do is I want to drop in a recycler view inside of here. There's a recycler view. Okay. And if I go back to this, this is pretty basic, where it says match parent, and we need to give it an ID. Let's do that. So we'll say Android ID is equal to, we'll say that, we'll give it the ID that it will call this the first recycler that we're doing together. View, first recycler view, recycler. That's what we'll call it. And I mean, I've done many other ones, and we want to basically match parent for everything. So we have to add some constraints here. And we also have to add a list item, which we don't have yet, which we're going to create next for the recycler view. So again, I'm going to go back to here, and for the recycler view, I'm just going to match parent. I'm just going to add these basic constraints right here. So that kind of covers all of my constraints for this thing. It's going to take up the entire screen right now. Okay. So if you look back at the code for the recycler view, it just adds all those constraints down here. What we also need is a in a layout is a text row item, right? So that's just like a custom table view cell that we need, right? So I'm going to kind of go in here and add a new layout resource file, and we're going to call this layout resource file text row item, right? And that text row item is going to be something where we're going to add in all this stuff, right? So text row item. I need two things in the text row item. I need a linear layout. So the way I can do this is I can switch from a constraint layout. I can right click and I can kind of convert view. And I can convert view from a constraint layout to a linear layout. I want to convert to that. Okay. And then when I go back to the code, I want to specify that the linear layout is horizontal. So I want to say that Android orientation, and that's going to be horizontal. That's the linear layout that I'm going to put in, if that makes any sense. And then I don't think I need anything else in there. I do need a couple of text views. I need a text view for rating, and I need another linear layout with that is vertical, right? Where I'm going to have two text views. Yes, I want to have two text views for title and studio. Okay, so that's going to be inside of this one. So let's add in the first one, which is going to be my rating. Okay, so back to this. Easy thing to do is just grab a text view and drag it in here. So there's my text view. And this text view, we're going to configure it a little bit just really quickly. So this text view is going to have an ID of rating. That's pretty simple. It has wrap content. I'm going to give it some margins just to make sure that we're good. The margins are going to be 10 at the start and the end, and 50 at the top and the bottom. I think that's what I'm going to do. 15 at the start and the bottom. Yes, I think so. Maybe not. Let's see. So let's add margins. We can do that by just doing it here. So I'm going to go here and we'll say margin. And from a layout margin perspective, I can say that the top margin is going to be something like 15 dp. The end margin is going to be 10 dp. The start margin is going to be 10 dp. Okay, that's what I want to add in there. And that's all I want to do there. And then it's going to be, both of these are going to be wrap contents. I'm also going to add some padding at the top, the end, and the bottom. Let's add that in too. So let's add some padding. Margins and padding, right? So padding, I'm going to say at the top, top padding is going to be 5. End padding is going to be 10 dp. That's what I should put in. And 5 dp. I'll be okay. 5 dp, 10 dp, as well as bottom is 5 dp. So again, I'm just putting some margins in there so that it's opening it up so it's bigger. You see what I'm doing? All right, and the Android text that I want in here by default for this thing is, there it is. Instead of text view, we're going to say NA. So we're going to kind of size that up, what that looks like, NA. Padding start is 10 dp. How come that's not showing up? Padding start is also 10 dp. 10 dp. There we go. Padding start, end, top, and bottom. Yep, that's good. So now you can see there's a little bit of separation there. And that is basically this thing configured. I want to make the text size 20. So let's try that. So we'll say here, we'll just call that, we'll do it manually. And we'll say that the text size, Android text size is equal to 20 SP. All right, and that should give us a good that's going to be where our thing is going to be. Now, what I want to do is I want to add in another layout, which is going to be a linear layout vertical. That's going to be next to this one, right over here, a linear layout vertical. And the linear layout vertical that we're going to add in, right, is going to be, back to this, this is going to be wrap content, match parent. That is correct. Yeah. And it's going to be vertical. It's going to be vertical. I don't need to give it a weight of 1. In fact, I don't need to give it any weight at all. And here, now, why is this linear layout having an issue? It says that no children. Yeah, okay. We're going to get some children in there. And let's go back to there. So now you can see NA is there. Linear layout, we're going to add 2 text objects. One of them is going to be title, and the other one is going to be rating, right? Or studio. So text, I want to get a text view in there, right? And the first one is going to be title. So this one. Call this one / title. And this will be wrap content. Wrap content. And what we'll do is we'll give it some margin. And the title text will be title. That'll be it. Title. We'll also say that the cell size, Android, text size, we'll make that so that it's going to be equal to, I don't know, maybe something, what would have made for that one? I think it was 18 SP, if I'm not wrong. And then we also made it bold, Android, text style, and we'll make that bold. All right, so that's it. Title, wrap contents. Why is this red? I think it's throwing errors, that's for sure. All of them are throwing errors. I don't care about that. As long as I can see it, I don't care. There's title, way over there. Okay. And, but the width, wrap contents. That should be match parent. The width should be match parent. Let's go back. The width should be match parent, of course, because it's going to be the whole length. Match parent. And the content is going to be whatever it's going to be. All right, so match parent. And this is wrap contents. Nothing in there, just that. And that is title. And what I want is for this one to be much smaller, like over here. What if I said this is going to be 0 width through dp? Title and content back in there. Because there's this one, and then I need another one of these. So copy. No, I don't want that. I want this to be full screen. That's why it's giving me issues. Okay, so try it again. Copy this one and paste it. And this one will be rating. Oh, sorry, studio. Studio match parent. This will be wrap content. And margin start. Definitely, I'll have the margin start for both those. The text will be studio. I'll make the size 16. And it won't be bold. I won't make it bold for this one because we don't need to make it bold. Linear layout, text view, wrap contents for the thing, right? And what does it say here? It says the view should be only big enough to enclose plus padding. Use a layout width of 0 dp instead of wrap content for better performance. Yeah, that's what I thought. but that didn't really work. And that's title, that's text view, that's all good. So why, oh why, is it showing up like this? I got two things. Here's my linear layout. Oh, I think I need to give it a weight. I think I need to give this a weight. Text, margins, and all that stuff. Yeah, let's do that. Let's give it some weight. So this one, this is layout weight 1, and this one, this whole thing is layout weight 1. Oops, 1. And if I gave it 2, maybe 4, 6, 8, how about 12? Even more. 16, 20, 30. Inching along. It's okay. That's pretty good, actually. So that's good. So that's it. Now I want to give it some margin for this one. So that would be the top. And we'll say margins. Actually, I'll select both of them. And we'll say margin. And layout margin should be for margin start. We'll give it like 10 dp. Margin start, let's say 10 dp. And that's good. And we'll also give it a little bit of padding all around. We'll do that too. Height, I think we're almost good. Let's add some padding. And in the padding area, we'll give it some top padding of 10 dp. Is that too big? That's pretty good actually for both. Yeah, and maybe some start padding of 5 dp. A little space there. I don't know. Maybe we'll make 5 dp all around. But let's just do what I think is best for now. 5 dp. So actually, you know what? We'll give it 5 dp margin all around. So I'll just put padding here. So padding, we'll give it 5 dp all around. How about that? That looks pretty good. All right, so that is our thing. And you know what we'll add in? In addition to this, we'll add in a little divider, which is a widget, or sorry, a helper. Is it a widget? Widget. Horizontal divider. There we go. We'll add that in at the bottom. And it shouldn't be here. It should actually be, let's undo that change. We will add it in underneath this. So horizontal divider we'll add in up here. Not there. I'll promote that one level. I'll fix it here. Horizontal divider will be added in here. Okay. And that's just to make it look good. All right, let's see what that looks like. That's not the right one. I want the divider, vertical divider, horizontal, right? Oh, okay, that messed things up. Let's take that out. You know what? This is good enough. That looks pretty good. That's what our row is going to look like every single time. I like it. Okay, so that is our text row item. Now that we have our text row item, back to here, what I can do is inside of our activity main, we can list the text row item as a list item. So down here, you can say that at, tools list item is equal to be the at layout text row item, right? And then go back to here, we see 1. But we should see we should see more than one, right? We should see a bunch of them because we only see one here. That's a bad thing. We'll only ever see one. And so that means that in my text row item, this is where it's messed up. We need to do near layout, wrap contents, wrap contents, not match parent. Match parent for, sorry, the other way around. This part is going to be layout height is wrap contents. That, and if we go back to main, we see this. Okay, so this gives us a preview of what it's going to look like, right? And one thing to note is that each of these views is telling us that if it's messed up, like how it's going to be spaced in here. Okay, so you can see that title is okay, but studio not okay, right? And it's because of our padding and the space that we've given our our row. We can change that. Instead of wrap parent, we can go back to this, and we can actually pull this down. So we can select the horizontal layout, and instead of the layout height of wrap content, we can give it a number, like, I don't know, 200 dp, kind of thing. And if it's too big, like that's way too big, we can give it like something like, I don't know, 60 dp. See what that looks like. Much better. Maybe 70 dp might be better. Yeah, I like that more. So it's 70 dp. So that's kind of a fixed content size. And then what that does is, if I go back to activity main, you can see now it's spaced out, which is nice. So yay, we've got our the way this looks, and this is really great. And we're almost at the end, I swear. As we got a way of getting this done. We need another probably 10 minutes or so. So Sudarshan, I'm going to run long. So if you have to go, I understand. I'll keep recording, unless you have.
Okay, Professor.
What was that?
Okay, Professor. No worries.
Okay. All right. So now that we've got that, let's put that up on GitHub. So we've added in our git commit -m. We'll say added recycler view to layout, main layout main, activity main layout. Okay, so we did that, but we need an adapter. A first adapter is what we're going to call it. So let's add that in. So we're going to make a new Kotlin class. We're going to call this first adapter. And because we need an adapter for the recycler view all the time, right? And that is what we need. And the first adapter is, so make sure that's called first adapter. It is. We'll add that in. And yes, we'll add it in. So first adapter is going to be a Kotlin class. It's going to have a couple of things. And one thing is it's going to have a private var data set. The data set is going to be a list of movie items. That's what we're going to have. And it's going to inherit from recycler view dot adapter and we're going to use the first adapter dot view holder, which we don't have yet, for the view holder object. Okay, so we don't have the view holder object, but we will in a second. We have a var on movie click. We don't need that yet, I think. I definitely need the class view holder. So class view holder, here's the class view holder, which is val binding. I'm going to pass in the text row item binding. We need that because that is for our text row item layout, because we're using view binding. And then it's going to inherit from the recycler view dot view holder, and then we're going to pass in binding dot root to that So that way that is going to take care of our binding class. So that's the first thing. Now, the first adapter, right? The problem with it is we're kind of inheriting, but we're not putting in the members. We can implement members really quickly, and it tells us the ones we want. These are the 3 members we have to implement. So I'm going to press OK, and it kind of implements those 3 members, kind of right away. The item count is the easier one to do. This one here, we're going to override get item, and this override is going to be, we can actually do something like this, where we're going to say get item count is equal to dataset.count, dataset.size. So that takes care of that one. The onCreate view holder, this is important because when the view holder is created, we need to do something, and that is val binding is equal to text row item binding dot inflate. We got to inflate the, and we're going to use layout inflator dot from view group. This should be called view group. Instead of parent. View group dot context, and we're going to pass in the view group and false. So that's what that's going to be. And let me just make this into one of my functions. And then the next thing is after we do binding, we're going to return the binding, the view holder by passing in the binding to that thing. All right, so that's going to create the view binding that we need. On bind view holder is a little bit more challenging. Let's call this view holder, and position isn't as good. That's fine. I'm going to just do one of these, and now this is where the large amount of work is going to be. We're going to say val movie is equal to our data sets that we're getting in, and it's going to be at position. So that's going to be representing the position, the movie itself. View holder dot binding dot title dot text. This is where we're going to actually put the movie in place. Is equal to the movie dot title, and view holder dot binding dot studio dot text is going to be equal to the movie dot studio. Okay. The view holder. Now the other thing we have to do is the rating. So first, in order for us to do the rating, remember the rating has to be colored. So we're going to say val rating is equal to movie dot rating, and we want critics rating. That's what we want. And here we can say if rating is not equal to null. So again, somewhat similar to the iOS side. Then what we want to do, well, we want to say that view holder dot binding dot rating dot text is equal to the rating dot toString, because we want to convert from a number to a string, because the rating is going to be a number, right? Whatever that's going to be. So now we can say that if it's not thing, we can do a when, and we can say when rating is greater than 7, then what do we want to do? We can say view holder dot binding dot rating dot set background resource, this one, to now actually let's not color it right now for a second. I need one more thing with this. So if rating is not null, then do this. What about if rating is null? Right, I'm going to come back to the when statement. If rating is null, else, let's save some time here. If rating is null, then what I want to do is I want to say view holder binding. Why is that not working?
It's outside of function, Professor, so that's why.
It is outside the function. Thank you. But I meant to do it here. If view holder dot binding dot rating dot text is equal to, we'll say NA. So somehow, you know, if we're not good, we'll do that for now. And I think that's all I want to do right now, because we don't want to color it. We just want to show it, and then I'll color it. I'll add in a drawable later on. Okay, let's put this up on GitHub. Git commits -m. We'll say added added recycler adapter. Okay, so I got all that on GitHub for you guys, and now the test. Let's see if it breaks, and it always does the first time. Well, this will break because now we've been on this for a long time, and of course we're not going to see anything because let's look at logcat for a second. Logcat is not breaking. Logcat is going to time out because, going back to our thing, let's go to that. Let's go to here, and here, if I refresh, it's timed out. So we're going to have to wait. But we're almost done, right? It's a matter of getting color and all that stuff done pretty good. And I think we're almost there. And the idea here is that I'm showing you two different ways of showing your data, both on the Android side and on the iOS side. iOS is done, and now we're just fixing the Android side. So Sudarshan, what are your thoughts around this? Is it more complex on the Android side or easier? What do you think?
It's not that complex, Professor.
Okay, I'm glad you think so. That's the first part.
Maybe I already use like recycle view and also that's why.
Very good, very good. Is how about the rest of your guys? Did the rest of them use recycler view as well, or is it just? I mean, how about everyone else in the class? Are they comfortable with recycler view?
Yeah, Professor, in previous semester we used recycle.
Good. So it's a review. It should be review. Should be review. All right, let's try again. So let's refresh. Let's refresh this thing, and let's see if it actually gives us data. And if not, why? We have to. We're going to look at it in a second. So, oh yeah, of course, we didn't do anything on main activity. We did everything on the first adapter, but we didn't do anything on main activity. So, but it didn't crap out, which is good. So that crapping out is a bad thing. So main activity doesn't do anything. Let's go back to main activity, and this is where our fun begins. All right. So view model. So back into our onCreate function. So we'll say we want to make a reference to the view model, right, which we don't have yet. And I think that's the first thing we need to do, as well as the first adapter and the movie list. Let's add those things in. So up here, we're going to say a private val view model, which is of type movie view model by view models, we're going to say, okay? And definitely do that. By view models. And for this import, I'm going to say it's by view models, there we go, by view models. The next one is private late initializer var. We're going to do the first adapter, which is of type first adapter, right? And we're also going to do a private late init var, which is movie list, which is of type mutable list of type movie. Okay, so those are all the things we need. I don't think we need, no, I need that. I think that's all I need. All right, and then let's do the thing. Let's do the view model. So then view model dot movies dot observe, and then what we're going to do is we're going to observe this, and then we're going to say that movies there we go, and we're going to say movie list is equal to movies dot to mutable lists. Okay, when you do that, to convert it to mutable list, and then first adapter is equal to first adapter movies. We pass in the reference to the movies itself. Then we need to say binding dot first recycler view dot apply, and then we'll say layout manager. We need to call the layout manager is equal to the linear layout manager, and then we'll say this at main activity. We can actually have just done this. Adapter is going to be equal to the first adapter, which is what we've defined up there. So that is your binding. And then I have to kind of say that, so after the view model we've created, then we're going to say view model dot get all movies, so we can kind of make the movies appear. And I think, my friends, that should be it. Let's see if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Did it work? No. It crapped out. What crapped out? I'd like to say that it worked, but I know that it didn't, because it didn't do what it's supposed to do. Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a read here. So it says unable to start activity, component info. Main activity, why? Base URL must end in a slash. See? Simple stuff that we can fix. Okay, data manager. Base URL must end in a slash. Seriously. Let's run it again. All finished. Okay, we got another error. Okay, it says fatal exception, OK dispatcher, ask Gemini. It says missing internet permissions. Oh yes, oh yeah. We can't do this unless, so this is something special with Android. We're in the manifest, in the Android manifest itself, we need to add in internet permissions, believe it or not. Oh yeah. One thing at a time, my friends. One thing at a time. It's amazing all the things we have to do for to make things go. One second, please. Let's make sure I got this right. Android manifest. It is, here it is. Uses permission. Android name is android.permission.internet, which we can pull down. Permission.internet. Yeah. That's all it needed. And close this off. Okay, without this, it'll never run. Let's try again. Hey, look at that. Not bad. Some issues of note, right? So we're almost there. Some issues of note. 8.7 didn't quite work for this one because of its name, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, this part. But the rest worked okay. And the reason why it didn't work for this one is because we gave this more space. It pushed this stuff over. We can make a change to how much room these get compared to this one. And that's just a matter of going to text row item, and adjusting the vertical layout from 40 to something like 30 or even less. Let's try that and see if that is better. Nope. Let's try 20. Let's try 10. That's a lot. See, these ones, look how these ones are pushed back, right? But not this one. It's because of how this wraps. See how this wraps around? It's 8.7. So it's a definitely like an issue. If I went to 5, which is way over there now, I think it's still a wrap. Yeah, because of this, because of the wrapping part. So we can actually have a maximum size, a max length. Let's go back to what we had before, which was like 50. It actually looked better there. Yeah. So yeah, the reason why this does this is because this wraps and it kind of kills the other thing right here. And so we have to kind of create a thing for this, where we say the maximum size of this. We can also reduce the size for now. So we can say that the title, you know, instead of 18 SP, we can make it smaller. We can make it something like 12 SP. And same thing with studio. We can go with, you know, maybe we'll make that 12 SP. And so the title, we'll make it 14 SP. Let's do that. So it's kind of smaller, but we can do that and see if that can just fix the problem for now. Yeah, it does. But eventually we're going to have to make it so that these are adjusted. But now you can see that we're getting data, and this is the first part of what you want to do. So if I want to add a background to this, right, then what we'd have to do is add a drawable. And I think for today, I think we've already gone over time. I'm pretty happy with the fact that we were able to get this done. I think for your in-class exercise 7, those are the 3 parts. So the API, you know, the iOS and the Android pieces. And if you get this, I'm pretty happy. That's basically you reading data from your data source. All right, let's put this up on GitHub. This is the final version for today, right? Good try for Android. Git commits -m, and we'll say final version of ICE 7 Android. Git push. Sudarshan, any questions? How are you doing with that?
No question.
Yeah, so this covered most of everything that you need, guys. I think that this is pretty good. So for the people that are watching, again, you can pretty much see what we did. I personally think the Android stuff is more complex. That's just me. I think it was far easier to do the iOS stuff for this activity, for this thing that we're doing, right? I think there's some stuff that's more complicated on the iOS side, you know, than on the Android side. But I think we can make this better, and I think we can do that by adding in some, you know, some drawables, maybe a border and a color, and then I can fix that up for you guys next week. That'll be the first thing we do. Okay, and then we'll have both those 2 things, and then the next part is, how about full CRUD? How can I control this thing? How can I click on these cells to do something with them? And I think that's what we're going to do next. Okay, my friends, that's it for today. Take care. Good luck for your in-class exercise 7. Do this Sunday, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks a lot, Sudarshan, for hanging out. I'll stop recording now.